This episode of Now This Is Lit is brought to you by Audible. Check the link in the description to get your first Star Wars audiobook free. Everyone loves free things. Click that link. Do it. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. You're listening to Now This Is Lit, a podcast about Star Wars books, the people who make them, and the readers who just can't get enough of them. I'm your host, Meg Dowell. I use she, her pronouns, and this is the last episode of 2023, which means I've invited my producer onto the show once again. But this time, we are revisiting something that we did this last year that I really, really liked, and I think all of you liked, and we really wanted to bring it back. So this is our Star Wars Reading Resolutions 2024 episode, where we look back at how we did on our resolutions for 2023, and then look ahead to what we want to read in 2024. We would love to hear all of your resolutions, but first, here's what we have done and what we have planned. I was looking when we were re-listening to the original Reading Resolutions episode that we did. I realized that we both kind of crushed it this year.
Yeah, we did a good job.
Yeah, like we may not have gotten to everything, but like we did a lot. We did a lot of Star Wars reading.
Yes.
That's exciting. And like, again, this is all aside from keeping up with the new releases, which is hard enough to do on its own because there are so many.
Correct.
Or there were so many this year. I still don't know. There's going to be a lot still next year. Maybe not as much. That's maybe not true. I guess we'll see. There may be around the same amount. It's just that the High Republic books won't all come out back to back to back to back. So yeah, here we are again. Back to both reflect on our Star Wars reading resolutions that we made at the beginning of this year and setting new resolutions for 2024. Can you believe it's almost 2024?
I really can't because this year has just felt so long.
It really has felt so long. Battle for Jeddah, the Battle audiobook came out at the beginning of this year.
Yeah, sure did.
I can't believe it. Yeah, it's been a long year, but a good year. A good year for this show. A good year personally. Maybe not professionally for me, but you know what? It's fine. Everything always works out. So, ayo. Hey, you're back on the show.
Correct.
Again. When I both listened to our original recording of the resolutions and then the update that we did, that episode you'd been on, that was your fourth time on. So this is your sixth time on the show, which, I mean, now you're the producer, so it's warranted that you would be on the show this much. And I like having you here, and you're still going to be here again and again and again and again.
Yep. You're not sick of me yet. Don't worry.
For those who may be joining us for the first time, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Davor. I am the producer of Now This Is Lit. Woo! And I'm also a co-host on a couple other Star Wars podcasts, including Clashing Sabers and also Space Swifties, a Star Wars and Taylor Swift podcast that I co-host with the host of this podcast.
You said a couple other Star Wars podcasts, and I was like, what have you not told me? It's very confused. Like, two other Star Wars? Yes. One that we do together is the one I forgot about. Yeah, I just love podcasting with you, and that's why one of the reasons you're here. But also, I like setting goals. I like encouraging other people to strive to reach their own goals, which is why I wanted to do this with you the first time that we did it, and we liked it so much that we're going to do it again this year. And I highly encourage you to make your own resolutions along with us and join us in the fun, because it's fun to have reading goals. Not just to have goals, but Star Wars reading resolutions that you actually want to work toward achieving. This is all about Not reading because we have to, but reading because we want to, because it's Star Wars and it's entertainment and it's supposed to be fun. I'm excited.
Me too.
So I figured, as we did on the update, we should both kind of rapid fire read through the resolutions that we made. We'll start with the ones we made this year, and then second half we'll do the ones that we're making for next year. So do you want to go through really quick yours first, and then we'll talk, once we both say them, we can talk through how we did.
All right, sure. So I had 4 reading resolutions for 2023. So the first was I wanted to read more Legends, deepen my knowledge of the old Legends lore. Second, I wanted to reread the Aftermath trilogy. Third resolution is I wanted to read more Star Wars comics. Again, deepen my body of knowledge in that particular facet of Star Wars storytelling. And then my fourth reading resolution was to catch up on Phase 2 of the High Republic.
Oh, Phase 2. Phase 2. I love it. I also had 4 reading resolutions, and they were to read the Fate of the Jedi series. Again, Fate of the Jedi. 9-book series. Different authors. Had all the books. Wanted to read them. I also wanted to reread Heir to the Jedi because I wasn't sure how I felt about it the first time, and I wanted to give it another chance. So I wanted to do a second go-around, if you will. I also resolved to read more Star Wars comics because there's a lot of them, and I hadn't been keeping up with them, and I wanted to see if I could kind of step up my game, maybe a little bit. And the fourth and final resolution that I made was to finally, after so many years of not doing it, listen to the Ahsoka audiobook, narrated, of course, by Ahsoka Tano herself, Ashley Eckstein. So those are the 4 things I wanted to do. So, like, one by one, let's go through our resolutions, kind of do a little back and forth, and talk about how we did.
All right, sure. So the first one that I had, read more Legends. So I did technically read more Legends. I think this is maybe the resolution that... I mean, there are resolutions on here that I completed 100%. Mm-hmm. I think with this one is I did technically, do reading towards the resolution. Probably not as much as maybe I could have, because, I said read more Legends. I did exactly 2 Legends books in 2023.
But I mean, is that more than you did the year before?
It might actually be less, because I don't remember, because I think last year might have been Shatterpoint, Revan, and Labyrinth, possibly.
Okay.
Or Revenge of the Sith. I think it is actually less than I did. Or sorry, fewer. I have to be grammatically correct. Is fewer Legends books.
Which ones did you read this year?
So the only 2 that I did were Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void and Death Troopers.
Do you want to elaborate on how you felt about those 2 books?
So
in a gentle, constructive...
Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void was not for me.
There you go. I love that.
It was not a book that hit any of my particular Star Wars book pleasure points. Let's leave it at that.
But I really genuinely, and I'm being genuine, I like the way you phrase that. Because I think everyone does have things about Star Wars books that they're looking for, that they enjoy, and that kind of put together, let's say, the personal criteria for you individually, what makes a Star Wars book, let's say, like 3 stars or above, whatever you want to say. A good book is what a lot of people like to say, which is not very helpful, but if you want more of like a number. And if you happen to stumble upon a Star Wars book that does not have many or any of that criteria, then like you said, it's not going to be for you. It's not going to hit any of those things that you're like, yeah, I love this book. And that's okay. There are a lot of Star Wars books, and not all of them are going to be for everyone. Thank you for saying it like that. I liked that a lot.
You're welcome. It's the kind of attitude that I try to approach with any sort of Star Wars media as best as I can, is to say, really think about it in terms of, did this work for me? Did it not work for me?
Yeah.
And trying as much as possible to avoid this is bad.
This book sucks.
It was hard with Into the Void. No other piece of Star Wars media has as much challenged me to avoid this is just straight up bad as that was when I was reading Into the Void.
But genuinely, this is what the reading resolutions are for. It's a challenge in many ways. And sometimes it can be a challenge to figure out your feelings toward a book. But you know what? It is a very different kind of Star Wars book, and I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point. I won't make you come onto that episode to talk about Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void. It's not like a lot of other Star Wars books, and it may be missing a lot of the things that you were hoping for, or that you wanted, or that you like. And again, it happens. So yeah.
On the subject of, it's not like a lot of other Star Wars books. The other Legends book that I read, Death Troopers, that one I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, like I said, it's a much darker book. It's one of those books that, after reading it, I was like, Star Wars needs to, one thing that would be great for Star Wars books is do more genre books.
Yeah.
Because this one is straight up horror, but in
Right.
Star Wars.
Right.
And it would be great to do, there have been some in recent years. The one that pops immediately to mind is Shadow of the Sith, which is very much a kind of like high fantasy, but in Star Wars.
Yeah.
But yeah, doing more genre books, I think, where you take the Star Wars characters, the universe and all that, but then you set it in, again, a different kind of genres, I think would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. And, that's going to enter some territory where some people who love Star Wars books may stumble upon a genre of Star Wars books that they're like, oh, I don't know if I vibe with that. You may not like Kenobi because it's very Western, something like that. But again, that's okay, because Star Wars books do try to reach a very wide audience. And I like that. And I do think they need to keep doing some more of that exploring. And they will, I'm sure. So, but yeah, I'm glad that you got into more Legends. I mean, it wasn't as many as maybe you wanted to, but like some is better than none, and like
Correct.
You tried. And that is the most important thing about Star Wars reading resolutions, is that you make the effort. And I'm proud of you for that.
Thank you.
Because it's something that's not as familiar to you, and you don't necessarily always gravitate toward, I'm going to read a Legends book, but you tried. And I love that for you. So one of my reading resolutions was to read the entire 9-book series, Fate of the Jedi, a Legends series. And you're going to go on the Legends train here for a little bit more. The only reason that I was able to complete this goal and read the entire series is because not only do unabridged audiobooks exist for each of them, but my library had them. So I was able to, in the span of time this year where I did not have a job, I was able to listen to a lot of those books very quickly, all in a row. And you know what? That was great. That was a great escape for me. It was a great companion while I was filling out job applications, and it was fun. I really enjoyed the series. Highly recommend. It's not everyone's thing, again, but I enjoyed it. A lot of familiar characters that you'll recognize, even if you're not familiar with Legends. Han, Luke, Leia. But then you get into like all the children, and it's not that hard. Like, you could read it if you're not as familiar with the Legends timeline. Let's say you don't know like who all the children are, who they're related to, all of these things. But it is very easy to pick it up. They kind of make it, they make it so you can understand it. And I am not like a huge, like, Luke Skywalker, as I'll talk about, is not in my top like 5 Star Wars characters. He's great, but I don't necessarily like need or want a book all about him. I think we get plenty of him in the movies, but he's a major player in this series, and I genuinely enjoyed all of his stuff. It was very, very fun. And this is set like very far out from Return of the Jedi, but it made it very entertaining because the characters have, in some ways, not changed, but also changed a lot because they're much older. A lot has happened because it's after the new Jedi Order, which a lot of stuff, a lot of wild stuff happens in that book. They've been through a lot, and so they are, while they're familiar, they are very different people, and I love that. It's almost like, getting to know new characters, even though they are the same people, technically. Enjoyed it a lot. Highly recommend. And again, there are unabridged audiobooks already. Mark Thompson narrated every single one of them. And as always, he did a great job. And you know what? Wherever you want to get the audiobooks from, it's your choice. Do that. Highly recommend.
Awesome. I'm glad you were able to do that and that you enjoyed them.
I did. Thank you, universe, for giving me that opportunity to listen to all of the books.
All right. So my second resolution that I talked about was to revisit the Aftermath trilogy, which I did. That one, I scored 100% on that resolution. Woo! I listened to all 3 of them once again. Thanks to the local public library. Support your local public libraries, kids. It's important.
And you can't say much else.
No, I cannot.
No, because we are doing that episode that I think I mentioned on both of one, at least, if not both of the previous Reading Resolutions episodes you did, which is we are coming back for an episode where we revisit this trilogy, me, 2 other guests, one of them being you, and we talk about it. We talk through it. We start with where we were when we read it the first time, kind of where we were at, how we felt about Star Wars, and then, having reread now many years later, coming back, seeing how we feel, seeing if our feelings have changed, kind of like processing some things. It's going to be fun. So you can't say anything more about that, but I did, because we listened to one of the audiobooks while we were driving, while we were doing a long drive. I have technically listened to some of the first book again, and I'll just say it was nice to be back with those characters again. I'm again genuinely proud of you for getting through that. I know it was a feat for you.
Thank you.
Speaking of rereading books that we've read once before, another one of my resolutions was to reread Heir to the Jedi. And you already know, if you listen to the show, you already know that I did that because our series that I just mentioned, On Second Thought, the first episode came out, and it was me reflecting on Heir to the Jedi, why I didn't really feel it the first time, and kind of my feelings revisiting it the second time, and kind of coming away from that changed a little bit. I will say I genuinely enjoyed the book, but if you want to hear more about that, you can go listen to the episode. It's back somewhere. Just do a little bit of scrolling, you'll find it.
I don't think I told you this when it came out. I really loved that Heir to the Jedi episode. Yeah? Yes, I loved how both reflective it was on yourself, where you're talking about, well, I wrote this really harsh review about it, and I don't feel great about it, and I've changed the way that I kind of approach Star Wars books. But then also just very personal in terms of reflecting who you were as a person at the time that you read it then versus now, and how it informed your reaction to the book. Yeah. I mean, this gets back a little bit to the conversation we just had a few minutes ago about how we all have different sort of things that we want from Star Wars, whether it's a book, whether it's a TV show, whether it's a movie, and also it's different things that we bring to it. Yeah. I think it's a lot of how we engage with Star Wars. I think about that, the scene in Empire Strikes Back when Luke is going to the cave and he asks Yoda, what am I going to find in there? And then Yoda says, only what you take with you. And I think that is also, I think that's in a lot of ways a metaphor for how we as fans engage with Star Wars. A lot of what we find in the books we read and the shows we watch and the movies we watch is what we bring into them. Yeah. You kind of get out what you put in terms of, again, like your own experiences, your likes, your dislikes, and so on.
Yeah, and that's really the reason why I came up with the idea for the series is because, the idea, I don't think I talked about this in the episode. It originally came about because I read, and we'll talk about this at some point more in depth in an episode when we do it. When I read Ronin, it was right before I moved here, and life was kind of crazy, and I didn't really get a lot out of the book at the time. But I knew that was because there was a lot going on that was kind of like distracting me and kind of like preventing me from really like appreciating what Ronin is. And, you know, I talked about it in the episode, and I still think you should go listen to that because I really enjoyed making it. I was not in a good place, and that very negatively affected how I felt about probably a lot of the books I was reading at the time and the media I was consuming, and I probably just wasn't enjoying it at all. And that shone through in that review that I wrote. And life is long, and things change, and people change. And that's why I want to do the series, because I know that's probably the case for a lot of other people, not just me. You might read a book and you're just not having a good time, but you may not notice that at the time. But then you might go back and have an opportunity to read the book again. And you're like, I understand why I may have felt this at the time, but I maybe feel differently now. Or I feel the same, but I understand more. I'm going to be able to think more clearly about why maybe this book still doesn't totally work for me. So I'm excited to really start doing that series. Because I did, we could call it like the pilot episode, which I loved. But now it's time for other people to get to come on and kind of talk about, their stories and share, maybe get a little personal about, why maybe this book didn't work or this book didn't work then and I feel differently now. So hopefully I can get some more people on to do that. Thank you for saying that you liked the episode, by the way.
You're welcome.
It means a lot.
All right, my third resolution. This is the one that we had in common, which is to read more Star Wars comics. And I've made a lot of progress on this resolution in 2023. I decided to focus my comic reading really on High Republic. Largely that choice was made because, one, it felt like a manageable place to start because the stories are kind of contained, especially when you get into the comics right now that are sort of OT. There's a lot of crossovers and overlaps, different storylines, whereas High Republic is like, it's High Republic, it's just there. Right. And then also I think in terms of the story consequences of what happens in the comics affecting other things, particularly the books, I think is quite high in the High Republic. And so I figured focusing there, I would get a lot of bang for your buck in terms of reading the comics. And so, I've done a lot of High Republic comics this year. I've done almost all of Phase 1.
You're so close.
Yes. At the time that we're recording this, all that I have left, I think, is I have to do Monster of Temple Peak. And then I think there's a couple one-shots that came out.
Yeah.
Some of the free comic book day one-shots I have to chase down. But then after that, I will have done all of Phase 1. I've done most of Phase 2. I'm still missing out on, again, a couple days ago at the time that we're doing this recording, the second volume of High Republic Adventures Phase 2 came out. So I got to get my hands on that. Yeah. And then it's chasing down a couple one-shots, like the Quest of the Jedi, a few other ones.
But the good news for next year is already subscribed to the 2 High Republic comics that have started already for Phase 3. So, so far I think we're both caught up, or you're almost caught. You got to do the most recent thing that came out this week. But I've so far been able to keep up with those, and they're not coming out as often because High Republic's slowing down a little bit for the final phase. But you did great. You flew through some of those comics. Like, we'd be sitting on the couch and you're like, yeah, I'm done. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah, especially I think Edge of Balance, I did all 3 of them, I think, in one afternoon.
You went and grabbed them from upstairs and you were just like, 1, 2, 3. Yeah,
I loved Edge of Balance. I also want to, in the while we're talking about Star Wars comics, and we're mostly talking about High Republic because that's mostly what I read, but also in the realm of non-High Republic comics that I read, I also want to shout out a recent release that I thought was really good, which is the Star Wars Visions one-shot, The Followers of Ancock, the Peach Momoko comic that just came out, that is part of a new line of Visions one-shots that they're doing. If you can get your hands on it, get your hands on it. It is a very unconventional read, is all I will say. Is that if you are, Star Wars fans, Star Wars comic, like you have a certain thing you're used to, Followers of Ancock is going to kind of shake you out of that, a little bit out of your complacency. It's very different. But again, that's one of the things I love so much about Visions as a project.
Yeah, I love that.
Is that it does give the creators a lot of latitude to do some really different things. And yes, so I would get your hands on it. Again, it's a one-shot, so it's a very quick read. Yeah. But do it.
Yeah, I got to get to that because we have it. That's how you read it. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that and the other ones that they're going to do as well. Cool. Since we had this one in common, I'll talk about this too, because I also resolved to read more Star Wars comics, and that proved to be quite difficult for me.
No.
I did not get to, because I thought maybe like, I would go back and maybe pick up where I left off with the current Vader run or something like that, or I would pick up a new series that started, and that really didn't end up happening the way that I wanted it to. This year was a lot. There was just a lot going on constantly all the time. I kind of alluded to that talking earlier in one of my resolutions, but what I did do, and I'm very happy that I've done this, is the High Republic comics that have come out for Phase 3. So there have been 2, as of recording, there's been 2 issues of Shadows of Starlight. There's going to be another one pretty soon. And the main the High Republic comic had its first issue out. And the High Republic Adventures just had its first issue out, all for Phase 3. And I am caught up with all of those. And I'm so proud of myself for doing that, because that means that it's going to be easier now going into 2024 and then moving through to keep up with the High Republic Phase 3, because like I said, they're not coming out as often, maybe once a month, maybe for each of them, depending on what the exact schedule is. So a lot easier, a lot more manageable. And that's even though it's not as much as I wanted to get to, I did try. And the High Republic for me was a good way to kind of like end the year strong, so to speak, because I genuinely liked them, and it made me want to go back and catch up on all the comics that I kind of missed out on this year, and with the High Republic and in general. So I tried, but I will have a lot more free time in a good way, in a positive way this time, going into 2024. So hopefully we can do a little better, but I did my best.
Yes, you did, and that's what matters most.
Exactly.
All right, last one. Do you want to go, because ours kind of blended here, because we were both talking about comics?
Sure, yeah. So my 4th reading resolution for 2023, I almost said 2024, was to finally listen to the Ahsoka audiobook. And as I talked about in our update, I did do that. And, it's a quick read. I've read the book now 3 or 4 times, I think, in different mediums, including listening to the audiobook. I loved it. I loved the narration, obviously. I knew I would. I still love the story. There were little parts about the story that I'd forgotten about that I remembered then that I loved. A lot of stuff that happens with the family, that she's staying with at the beginning. And then, I forgot that she went back. Things like that. I loved it. I loved it so much. And I love the book. I love E.K. Johnson's writing. I love her storytelling. I love her focus on characters and the things they go through to grow. And I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm kind of sad that it took me as long as it did to get to it. But Ashley Eckstein needs to narrate more Star Wars books. That's my opinion. But now she's doing audio stuff with Disney, and it's fine. You know what? Do your thing. You're very good at what you do. But wouldn't hate to have you back. Not as Ahsoka, but maybe that's why they're not going to have her back. I don't know. I don't know. But I genuinely loved it. It's a great audiobook. Highly recommend. Again, not very long. So you can get through it pretty fast. Yay. I'm so glad that I finally did it so people can stop yelling at me for not having done it.
Yes, you finally did it. I'm so glad too, because I was one of the people ragging on you for not having listened to the Ahsoka audiobook.
Listen to the Ahsoka novel. It's narrated by Ahsoka. And I was like, I know. I'm aware. Great book. I want to read it again. I really do. It's one of my favorite Star Wars books ever. I love Ahsoka.
Me too. All right, and then my last resolution, which was to catch up on Phase 2 of the High Republic. I've mostly done that. Again, going back to our comics conversation, I'm not strictly speaking caught up on Phase 2 of the High Republic, since there are some comics that I've not done. But in terms of the main books, I did all of those.
Yay.
I managed to catch up across the beginning of the year with the fall 2022 releases, and then did a pretty decent job of keeping up with the spring 23 releases as they were coming out, and then doing Tales of Light and Life and such. Yeah. And I'll have more to say on some of the Phase 2 entries in the subsequent recording that we are doing.
Yeah.
But yes, I caught up with it. I really enjoyed it. I think I might have said this maybe on the update episode, I can't remember, is that I enjoyed Phase 1 of the High Republic. I enjoyed those entries and those characters in the story. But it was really Phase 2 where I fell in love with the High Republic.
Yeah, same.
This was where it really clicked. I really enjoyed the characters. I really enjoyed the story. This is where I really, truly became invested in this era of storytelling.
Yeah. And I'm loving it because, we haven't gotten a ton of Phase 3 yet. But, having felt all right about Phase 1 and then just absolutely loving Phase 2. Now getting into Phase 3 and seeing how all of it's coming together. I love the High Republic now more than I did when it started, and I didn't hate it then. It's kind of the more that they add to it, the more that everything kind of starts to weave together, the more I'm fascinated by how they brought all of these elements together like this. It's we will obviously talk about this when we get to the quote unquote end, but the everything that has gone into all these stories tying together like this, between the books and the comics and the audio dramas and the manga, and then the High Republic now branching out into TV at some point. I'm absolutely amazed, and I'm amazed as a storyteller, more behind the scenes, seeing how it all came together. But then the stories themselves and the characters, I'm having a great time, and I'm glad that you are too. And I'm really glad that you were able to catch up.
Yes, me too.
The only one you kind of struggled with was Path of Vengeance, and that's not your fault because the audiobook got delayed. But,
yes, exactly. There was about a month lag.
Yeah, so it took you a little bit longer to get there. But I did not actually listen to the audiobook for that one, but you told me that it was very good, so I should.
Yes, you should.
Oh, look at us. Look at all the things we did this year, all the things we read, all the challenges that we were up against. We did great.
We really did.
I'm so proud of us.
Me too.
And, because it's reading is supposed to be fun. You don't want to make it homework, but it's also, we're the kind of people who like a little bit of challenge, So
yes, exactly.
It's fun. And we did great this year. And I think we're going to do pretty great in 2024 too. So let's move right into talking about our Star Wars reading resolutions for the next year. You want to go back and forth again?
Yes,
we
let's
did?
do that.
Okay. I can start with my first one.
All right.
I tried, because one of the things I noticed when I was kind of, reflecting on my goals for this year is some of them weren't as maybe specific enough. And so maybe I kind of struggled with read more comics was kind of hard for me because what does more mean? You know, like, and then I couldn't really like focus on like, oh, what do I want to read? So I think that for me is why I struggled. So I tried to be a little bit more specific. I tried to maybe not go as hard with some of these goals, except for one of them, which is going to make you laugh because I'm trying not to do as much. And then, but yeah, so I really tried. So my first Star Wars reading resolution for 2024. Okay, sorry. I read that wrong. I was like, what does this mean? I want to catch up on the High Republic comics. That will be easier for me, I think, than trying to like catch up on like all the comics. Because I'm doing okay with Phase 3, but Phase 1 and Phase 2, I want to read them. I just never really got to them, and I want to do that. I want to kind of like end the year being caught up on all things High Republic. And I am caught up with everything at this point other than the comics. So I feel like while the High Republic is kind of slowing down a little bit, it'll be easier to kind of focus on comics. And actually several of my resolutions are comics related because I think it's time. I love the comics. We don't talk enough about the comics on the show because I don't keep up with as many of them as I want to. And I don't love that. So I'm going to really try. And I'll start with getting caught up on one of my favorite eras in Star Wars publishing at the moment.
Excellent goal. I also like your approach of coming up with some more tailored resolutions. Yeah. I kind of did that too also for 2024, as you'll see when I go through mine, of trying to be a little bit more specific about like, read these things, as opposed to the more abstract, read more Legends, read more comics.
Yeah, because it can be hard to like be like, read more. And like kind of we were talking about, you're like, well, I read Legends, but was it really more? And you had to like think about it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right, that was a good one. All right, my first resolution, where I'm going to start with, is one that you already know, because I told you about it. And that is, I want to read all of the Star Wars movie novelizations.
Ah, yes, I love that goal.
To date, I have only read 2 of them. And that is the Revenge of the Sith novelization by Matt Stover and the Rise of Skywalker novelization by Ray Carson. But I would like to do all of the other ones. I think most of them, part of what motivated this goal is that most of them are on Libby as audiobooks. I don't know if the original trilogy ones are on there.
Yeah, I don't know if they have those.
They may not, but I know I've seen the prequel ones. I know I've seen sequel ones. I know I've seen Rogue One and Solo. But yes, I want to do the other 9 novelizations. Yeah,
that's a really good goal and a manageable goal, too, because there are not that many.
Yes.
And they're very good. And you've already read some of them. Yeah, I did that at some point. It was worth it. I'm glad that I read all of them because, like, you know, because we don't get as many movies, we don't get, you know, the novelizations, and I kind of miss them, you know, and they're very good. A lot of them, like, add a lot to the movie, not like in a Revenge of the Sith novelization way, but, you know, it's not like, most of them are not just like, here's the script, but a book. It's a little bit more than that, which I like. I love that. I think we're going to really have a lot of fun with those.
I think so, too.
I'd love to talk about the novelizations at some point on the show. I don't know in what way or why. Maybe some anniversaries. Maybe some upcoming movie anniversaries will allow for that to happen. Okay. I debated saving this one for last, but it was second on my list, so we're just going to go for it. I picked the reason a lot of my other goals are somewhat smaller is because I picked a pretty big one for my second out of 4, which was I want to finish the new Jedi Order series.
Christ.
There are 19. There are 19 main books in the series, and I'm on number 5. But listen, I have a lot of them, not all of them, but all of them are accessible to me. And there are not unabridged audiobooks for these, but they're not super long. I enjoy them. They're very like action heavy, fast paced, so it doesn't take me very long to get through one of them. I'm going to be spending a lot of my Star Wars reading time getting through all of these. But it's such a big series, and it's such an important series, like in the history of like Star Wars publishing, the things that it did, and all of that. I want it to be a thing that I've done. And I'm excited. I want to see, because I know things that have happened, but I've already gotten past a lot of the things that I know happen in the series. So now I'm like getting into territory where I'm like, well, I know one other big thing that happens at some point, but I don't know how we get there. I'm excited, very intimidated. This is a lot of books. But you know what? It's going to be fine. I'm going to have time to do it. So let's go. New Jedi Order.
Very ambitious, but I like it.
Why are there 19 books in the series? There's too many. But like, I want to read it also because I want to be able to talk about it on the show, because a lot of people said, I want to read the series, but I'm too intimidated. So I want to be able to like help you out with that. Really, I mean, the easiest way to say that is start with book 1, but I get it. It's hard. You see like there's almost 20 books and you're like, well, I don't want to do that. But I think it's worth it. But we'll talk more about that. You get some James Luceno in there. So, hey.
Very nice. All right, my second reading resolution for 2024. So I want to continue, digging into Legends in 2024, but I didn't want to just put a read more Legends resolution. One, because that would have just been repetitive of 2023, and two, to the point that we made a couple minutes ago, it's nice to kind of have tailored ones, right, a little bit more specific and concrete. So I have 2 of those on my list, and so this is the first of the 2, which is that for 2024, I want to read the OG Thrawn trilogy.
Oh, I'm so excited!
I guess technically quadrilogy, if you throw in Outbound Flight.
There's also another one, Survivor's Quest. I think Survivor's Quest, you're supposed to read before Outbound Flight if you want. I'm sorry.
All right, I'm going to do all 5.
They're good. And you have 2 unabridged audiobooks that are coming out.
Yes.
Or that will be out by the time this episode comes out. Narrated once again by Mark Thompson.
But yes, again, I want to do more Legends, and I was like, what's more Legends than the OG Thrawn trilogy?
What's more Legends than the books that made the expanded universe what it is today?
Yes, so I'm going to do it.
You know what? I think you'll enjoy them. I think like knowing how important they are, knowing their historical significance, let's say, I think you'll enjoy them.
I think so too.
You're not like, you don't gravitate toward like Thrawn content.
Correct.
I don't know why I said Thrawn content, but
Thrawn tent, if you will. Hashtag Thrawn tent.
But I think, like you'll get to know, Mara Jade and Thrawn. I think I'm really interested, like probably off mic, because I don't know when and in what context we're going to be talking about this trilogy, but on the podcast, I mean. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts, because I think there's a lot of things that you may actually enjoy. It's been a while since I read them. I gotta go through them again, but that's a good one. I was not expecting that. I like that.
I gotcha.
I like that. I like it. All right, my third one, which may not be actually that hard if I kind of stick with it, and I kind of I have faith and confidence in myself, which is in 2024, I want to keep up with all the new Star Wars comics that come out. So, you have your ongoing series that are still going to be ongoing through 2024. I don't really want to start in the middle with those. That's going to be a whole other thing. But like, I'm trying to think of a new comic that we know of that's coming out, that's been announced. Things are happening in the world of comics in 2024. But like I said, I'm already keeping up with the new High Republic comics that are coming out. And I want to, as a comic begins, issue 1, brand new, I want to be able to read it. I want to be able to stay up. I don't want to get to the point where we're like 40 issues almost into the Darth Vader series and I've read 2 of them. I don't want to keep doing this. I want to know what's happening in comics, not because I have to, but because I genuinely want to. So that's what I'm really going to try to do. New thing comes out, I'm on it.
Nice. That's a good one. I mean, we've had a couple already announced.
Yeah.
For 2024, we've got the There's a Django series.
Oh yeah, that one. See?
Yeah, I think it's a series of them. I don't think it's just going to be a one shot.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Mace Windu, which I think also may be a series of comics.
Yeah.
There's a couple of I think it's called the hyperspace stories. Those are the one shots where it's like one character and they follow them along. There's a couple of those that gotten announced. We're going to get some more Visions stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a good goal. Yeah, in terms of keeping up with new stuff that comes out.
Well, because like I remember because I think the trade paperback came out, that Yoda series, the miniseries that came out this year. I wanted to read that, and I just like I didn't grab the first issue when it came out, and then I just never got to it because it's like once you get behind, it's hard to like justify like, oh, I got to catch up, you know? So I want to like try to not get behind, and I don't think that's going to be that hard. It's going to be a little bit more dollars.
Yes.
But you know what? That's okay. You know, if any publisher out there wants to give me review copies of comics, it's okay. I love supporting the artists. That's why we're here. Sure, but I can do it, I think.
Very nice. I like it.
Yay.
All right. My third resolution for 2024 is also Legends related, and once again, very specific, is that I want to read Dark Lord: The Rise of Darth Vader by James Luceno.
Oh.
Because I want to finish up the unofficial Revenge of the Sith trilogy.
Yes.
That is Labyrinth of Evil, the novelization, and then this third Darth Vader-centered book.
It surprises me that it's taken you this long to get this book. There's so much good Vader content. There's so much good Vader in it.
I know. And again, you know, he's my favorite Star Wars character, and I'm desperately behind on the comics. So there's a lot of holes. I've not read, not caught up with the comics, not read that one. I've not read the canon, what is it? Lords of the Sith?
Yes.
Yes. So
you're going to love that book. There's a whole, like, it's not really a spoiler, but there's this whole part where he's talking about like all the ways his suit sucks, and it's great. Cuz it shows you like how much pain he's in all the time. And like I'm not a Vader stan like you are, but that was like that's high quality content right there. I need to stop saying content. You're going to love it.
I'm very excited.
Yeah. Audiobook for that one? I don't think so.
No.
Maybe
it'll get announced as an Essential Legends collection, and then
we are on a roll with in our wider podcasting endeavors. Starting off by talking about things or just talking about things in general that haven't happened, and then by the time the episode comes out or shortly after, there's announcements that completely undo everything we talked about.
Crossing my fingers.
Oh, yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's a good book. So the dog is destroying one of her toys right now. It's delightful. Our other podcasting partner that is surprisingly silent most of the time, in some ways and not in others. You're gonna love that book. Oh, my last one. I may have an honorary one. I haven't decided if I want to say it or not. But my last one, my fourth one, is also quite specific, but it's in line with something I talked about earlier, which is there's a comic series that's been ongoing for a while. We're on issue like 30 something at this point. And I started reading it, and then I stopped reading it. And I always wanted to continue reading it again. And now they just announced the series is ending. And I feel like I finally want to go back and give it another go and give it the love and attention it deserves. And that is Alyssa Wong's Dr. Aphra 2020 series that I started and it fell off, not because I didn't want to read it, but because there were other things going on. And I just stopped. But it's ending. And now I feel like I want to go back and give it some love because I should have and I didn't. But again, a specific enough goal where it's one comic that's already come out. There's a lot of issues, but I know I'm going to have a great time because I know it's great. So, yay.
That's a good one. I really do want to get to Dr. Aphra at some point because it has been just one of those really important parts of recent canon. Like there's a lot of people who love it. It's been really important from a sort of representation standpoint. in terms of its significance within the comic storytelling. Yeah, I gotta do that at some point. I really do.
Yeah. I did the she's not in the Vader run that she's in, but the series that came, the Dr. Aphra series that was before the current one that's going on. I think I've read most of that one and I really enjoyed it. And I started this one, loved it, but fell off of it. So now I'm going to finally get to it, and I'm excited. I think I'll get through it pretty fast because, again, I love it. I love Aphra. I love Alyssa Wong's writing, and I'm gonna do it, and I'm excited. And I already have the issues, which is the other thing. I've already paid for all of them, so yay!
Awesome.
All right, what you got? One more resolution. Let's hear.
All right.
What it is.
So, speaking of trilogies that took a long time to complete, in 2023. I finally completed the Alphabet Squadron trilogy by listening to Victory's Price. Long delayed, long overdue.
Yay, I'm so glad.
Yes, really loved it. And so for 2024, my fourth resolution is that I want to revisit the first two entries in the Alphabet Squadron trilogy.
Yeah. Yay.
Part of the reason that it took me so long to get to Victory's Price is because I had a hard time with the first two books.
Yeah.
I read those as physical books, and I just struggled with the storytelling, again, because so much of it was action-focused, and so I would get to the space battle parts, and my eyes would just glaze over the pages, and I'd have no idea what was happening. Yeah. And I found that when I did the Victory's Price audiobook, I had a much easier time following along with the story.
Yeah.
It was much easier to hear the battles going on than it was to read them on the page. And so after doing Victory's Price, I was like, oh, I really do want to go back to the first two and listen to them and see if I enjoy them more. And I'm 90% certain I'm going to have a better experience revisiting them.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I want to do that in order to, get the full trilogy experience in that way. And then also, just, of course, it being the third installment of a trilogy, Victory's Price is making a lot of references and allusions back to stuff from the first. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I kind of remember that, but I don't really remember what happened. So, yeah, I would like, as a refresher, and again, to kind of get that full enjoyment experience, yes, in 2024. Want to listen to Alphabet Squadron, want to listen to Shadowfall.
I think you're really going to enjoy the audiobooks. I found the same thing where maybe reading the physical book was a struggle at points, especially with the space battles. But once you get to the audiobooks and it feels more like you're able to be immersed in that experience, it's a lot easier. And I think I got a lot more out of it too when I started reading the audiobooks. You're going to have a great time.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Oh, I'm really excited for 2024. Both for all the Star Wars books that are coming out, but also for these resolutions and to, do things we might not normally do, and to challenge ourselves a little bit and to finally get to, which is the case for both of a lot of our resolutions, is get to things we just haven't gotten to yet, because we want to get to them, because we want to read them, because we're genuinely excited. And that's what these reading resolutions should be about. So, here's to 2024 and all the good Star Wars book things to come. Yay. This is the last episode of the year, and I did just want to say thank you to everyone listening, to everyone who's been on the show, to everyone who's helped make it possible for the show to continue. Thank you for making 2023 a great year for the show. And I'm excited for what's to come in the next year. And it's going to be good. So thank you to you for being on the show again, and to everyone who's made it a very, very fun year for Star Wars book podcasting. I've had a great time. Do you want to tell... The universe is the first phrase that came to mind for some reason. Do you want to tell everyone where they can find you on the internet?
Yes. So if you want to follow me on X, you can do so at A Larger View Pod. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, If you want to listen to my Star Wars opinions in other spaces about different facets that are not just books, you can listen to me over on Clashing Sabers on the main show, and you can also listen to me on Space Swifties, a Star Wars and Taylor Swift podcast that I host with you.
Yeah. Thank you for being on the show for the 6th time. Maybe the 7th time. I don't know anymore, man. It's been great.
Yeah, it has.
Now This Is Lit is part of the Faraway Fandom Network. It is produced by Davor and written, hosted, and edited by me. Jose Jimenez designed our podcast art. You can keep up with the show on our Substack at Now This Is Lit, and find the show wherever you get your podcasts. All the ways you can support the show other than listening and sharing are in the show description. For more book reviews and Star Wars Book Celebration, follow Star Wars Book Reviews on Instagram and TikTok.